Good morning, everybody. It is Kelly O'Neill, and I want to welcome you to the Profit-preneur live show, where we have candid conversations about all things business and life related to entrepreneurs who are growing their small businesses and want to do it in a way where they are working smarter, not harder, unintentionally on their business. And every single Tuesday and Thursday, with the exception of August, because we are taking a little vacation break, we come live with some of the greatest minds in the world in regards to business growth and strategy. And today I've got the absolutely amazing Stephenie Zamora with me. Welcome, Stephenie.
Hi, thank you for having me.
I'm thrilled to have you. For those of you who don't know me, I will briefly introduce myself. My name is Kelly O'Neill. I am a brand marketing and profit strategist that specializes in helping position clients to really move into uncontested market spaces so that they make their competition irrelevant, they attract all the affluent clients that they desire, and they are able to make a greater profit and greater income in their business. So you can check me out online. You can also join me in the Profit-preneur Circle on Facebook, which is our free community over there. I will talk to you a little bit more about that later. So this morning, we are going to be talking to Stephenie about all of the things that life gives us that help shape our purpose. And boy, is this topic timely for me, because I have had lots of life-shaping opportunities in the last 6 months. So introduce yourself, tell us a little bit about you, a little bit about your business and how you got into this work.
Yeah, so my business is Stephenie Zamora Media, and what we do is really focus on helping people step into who they're here to be and the work they're here to do. So it's very much about life purpose development, and we do that at all points on the journey. So our client is the same person, starting from your needing to heal and rise up and come back after life's most challenging chapters, whether that's trauma or depression or just a big life transition like divorce or losing a job, like the things that really knock us out of ourselves and kind of turn us inside out. We have to really do the work to reorient to who we are and what our life and our work is supposed to look like, to helping people figure out who they are and what their passion and purpose is, to building a business around that passion or purpose, and then all the way to the other end, we have a design and branding business as well, which is about helping them get their work out into the world on a bigger level. So again, just really helping people step into purpose, which is something that has just been really core for me in my life, figuring out what my purpose was and why it's so important. And yeah.
Well, and so let's just dive in right there. What is your purpose?
My purpose has always been centered around personal responsibility. And that's the thing about purpose. Like, it always has a core theme, a core way that it wants to express itself in terms of contribution, but how it shows up changes. So how I've expressed that over the years has changed dramatically. And you even see that within my business now. Like, we do that in so many different ways. But for me, I just remember when I was 21, I went through an early quarter-life crisis where I felt lost, and I felt like I didn't know who I was, and I felt like a shell of a person without any sense of what I was really supposed to be doing in the world. Yeah. And I read Jack... What? Go ahead.
Oh, no, I was just saying, yeah, I'm with you. I'm with you, girlfriend. Keep going.
So I read Jack Canfield's Success Principles. In the first chapter, he talks about personal responsibility, and it just clicked for me that I had always been pretty good at that. Like, if I was late for something, I wouldn't blame traffic. I would think I should have left earlier. But I realized that I could apply that on a bigger level by asking myself in every situation, even the hard ones, what did I do to allow this to happen? Or what am I going to choose to do with this now that it has happened? And so for me, that has grown into personal responsibility at the highest level is full alignment and full expression of self, which is just about being who you're here to be and doing your work in the world.
I love it. I love it. I love it. So how does someone's life, because I'm a big believer, and it sounds like you are as well, that life doesn't happen to us, it happens for us. And at every, one of the things I want to say to all of you guys out there too, because it looks like I've got some years on Miss Stephenie here, is, I've been in this entrepreneurial, I opened my business 19 years ago. So I've been doing this a very, very long time. And one of the things that I will absolutely tell you is, I don't care what Instagram looks like. I don't care what Facebook looks like. I will tell you right now that there is not one person that just, their life and business looks like the snapshot you see on Instagram and Facebook. I mean, I've worked with some of my clients have been top leaders in their industries. I've worked with top leaders in this kind of coaching and consulting industry. And here's what I will tell you. Every single person has stuff. Every single person has stuff going on in their business. Like not one person doesn't. There's no one that I ever talked to who's being honest that's like, no, everything is absolutely miraculously perfect. Like it just doesn't happen. So good morning, Carrie. So life is happening for us and it is helping us shape that journey. So talk a little bit about that and your philosophy on that.
Yeah, so I like to say that, life doesn't happen to us, life happens. And yes, it's great to have that attitude and perspective that it's happening for us. And I think it's also important to acknowledge that sometimes things just happen because everything happening for a reason. Like it's not always a spiritual thing. Sometimes it's just human. Like we have both aspects to our lives and our being in this world. Is there's the human element and the divine spiritual element. And honestly, that doesn't really matter to me. From my perspective, it's that life happens and it's what you choose to do with that and how willing you are to let it shape you or not. And there's some things that we don't want to shape us, but they're going to. Like everything that we walk through leaves its mark in some way. It influences who we are and what we believe and how we see the world in some way.
And the future decisions that we make.
Yeah, absolutely. And the important aspect of this is that you have choice in that. You always have choice in that. Even when things are really, really terrible and life has kicked me around a little bit in the last several years, I've gone through some really hard things, some really traumatic things that just altered who I was so deeply that, again, I had to reorient my own life and work and go through that process. But it could have very easily been a moment where I said, wow, like life is hard and it sucks and I'm just not cut out for this, or whatever else stories we tell ourselves. And a lot of the things that happened, some of them were out of my control completely, and others were situations that I ended up in for one reason or another. But ultimately, that doesn't matter. Like that gives us insight and information, but what matters is what we choose to do with it and how we are going to choose to write the rest of that story. So something happens and it adjusts our life and our work, it impacts us, it affects us. How do you want that story to end? Do you want to be a victim to life happening, to things going wrong, to other people? Or do you want to choose to say, I'm going to take this, integrate it, heal from it, and choose to create something with it that's meaningful, that makes my life good and happy again?
And so what is your, I'm assuming you have a process for this. What is your process for this?
So my process is very process oriented. Like there's certain things I believe we really need to do. So learning how to feel our feelings is a big part of that. I don't think that's something that we're taught enough about, especially even when it comes to being entrepreneurs. Like we feel like we have to put ourselves out there in a certain way. We're not allowed to have hard times, or we're not allowed to have feelings that don't align with our brand messaging, when it's okay to just be human and feel our feelings and get really in tune with the energy that wants to move through us so that we can heal and grow from things.
Yes.
And it's really, really key to know yourself inside and out, to know whether that's your personality type, what are your values and beliefs, what are the thoughts that you think every day.
And are they yours?
Yes.
Because like I grew up in a family, I can just speak for myself here, that I grew up in a family where my dad is a very powerful force. I would not argue that is always a force for good, but he's a very powerful force, and he really imprinted on all the kids, like, these are your beliefs. And I remember at a certain point in life, like when I went to go vote, and he was like, well, he's a very staunch conservative, and he was like, well, this is how you do it. You just go here, you take this booklet, and you vote, and you follow the party line. Like, you don't think, you don't ask questions. That's just what you do as a conscientious voter. And then I remember having this epiphany going, wait a minute, am I even actually a Republican? I'm like, I don't know that I am. Like, I know that's what I was told, right? So like even really identifying and going back and figuring out, like, wait a minute, is that my belief or is that someone else's belief?
Yeah, absolutely. And one thing, so I have this book that is like always with me that I will recommend to your audience, Last Word on Power by Tracy Goss.
Okay.
And it's all about executive reinvention for doing the impossible. And what I love most about it is it helps you identify your winning strategy. And the winning strategy that we have is something that is developed as our way to stay safe, secure, and successful. So everything that's gotten you to this point in your life has been because of your winning strategy. And if you're not aware of it, if you're completely unconscious to it, it's driving you and it's driving your decisions and it's driving your life. Mm-hmm. And if you feel like there are things that you want to do in the world, like for a lot of people, purpose is a really triggering word because they're just like, I don't know what that means. I don't have purpose. Not everyone has purpose. You can't access it because you're operating in the world from a winning strategy that is so old and outdated that everything that feels out of reach and feels impossible to you is because you have this winning strategy. And in order to go after and create what you want, you have to be willing to look at those things. What do I really believe? Did that really come from me? Is the way that I'm showing up in the world to stay safe, secure, and successful actually what's holding me back from creating what I want? And often it is. So this work is not easy by any means, and I think it's important to talk about how hard it is. Like when I untangled my winning strategy, there was like a 2-week period where I was just like, I don't know who I am. Like, how do I show up in my business? Like, how do I be a person in the world if I'm not behaving in the ways that I've behaved my entire life? Like, how do I engage with life? So it's a really deep and often intense process that too many people aren't willing to dig into.
I love it. And my team will post that below. The Last Word on Power by Tracy Goss.
Yes.
Excellent. I love it. Yeah, I had a similar epiphany when I was, gosh, how old was I? I don't even know, 30 something. I had gone to the Hoffman Institute and realized that my entire life had been a construction of the belief systems of the people around me, and I had no idea who I was. Yeah. But I was certain that it was not who I had been showing up in the world as.
Yeah, and you can't do your work in the world, you can't be who you're here to be if you keep operating from that place. And it is really scary, especially because there's that feeling of, if I don't show up this way anymore, the people who helped shape me are going to reject me. Like, I'm not going to fit with my family, with my community anymore. And that is a terrifying aspect of it.
So I'm just always curious, where did you learn about this? How did you learn about life? But where did you study? Where did you study?
I had my quarter life crisis, and before that, like at that point, I didn't realize there was this whole world of coaches and personal growth. I didn't know that there were personal development and self-help books. Like, I just kind of stumbled into them and kind of became obsessed is the best way I could describe it. Like, if there was a book about purpose or about figuring out who you were and what you wanted, I was all over it. Like, I was all over blogs when blogs still weren't a big thing. I wanted to know how other people had found their purpose and uncovered it. So I just kind of fell into the personal growth world and just started consuming. So I haven't done any official training. I've just read a lot. I've studied a lot. And I think a big part of it has been learning, again, knowing myself well enough and trusting myself enough to say that I hear what this expert is saying about purpose or being who you're here to be or personal growth and healing. I don't agree with it. It's not right for me. And being able to navigate to or find and create different modalities and processes that actually work for me versus just being like, I have to follow the experts and just listen to whatever book is in my lap. Like, being able to navigate that and then teaching people how to do that themselves. Like, I think intuition is a really big part of it.
I'm glad you mentioned that. So I don't know how long you have been following my work, but I am very vocal about this. So there's a lot of armchair experts out there. There's a lot of people that are better marketers than they are service providers. Yes. And you guys, like, actually, I would say that this is the crutch of what is going to take down the coaching industry right here, because I believe that the coaching industry is going to implode. I don't think it's sustainable. I don't think that the way that it's set up is, I think we're already seeing a lot of falling out from that world. And you get these people who read like a blog article on purpose, and then all of a sudden they're teaching on it. And it's like, yeah. Okay, or they read like one book, or they sat in someone else's seminar and there was a session, and now all of a sudden they're a life purpose coach. And it's like, no, wait a minute. You know what I mean? There's a lot more that goes into being an expert than that. And I think that part of knowing in business, I think so much of knowing who you are is also about knowing who you're not. Yes. And, again, I can speak for myself, is, and I do this with work with my clients, is I figure out, shh, girls. Sorry, my puppies just got spayed, and they're a little. Addie, stop it. So, I was going to say, I help them figure out what their work is not, because if one of the quickest ways to kill your business is to say that you are the master of everything.
Yeah.
When people come at me and they're like, I remember this ridiculous situation where this woman, had said, I can't even remember but she basically was like, well, I'm an intuitive healer, and I'm a funnel expert, and I'm a branding expert, and I'm a this, and I do high ticket sales coaching, and I'm like, okay, got it. So what you do, you don't know what you do, which means that you might be good at one of those things, but I'm going to actually just go with, you probably don't know what the fuck you're talking about, right? Like, because you don't even know what you do, right? And I think so much of part of like being on purpose and discovering that is really success is all about alignment, you guys. It is not about hustle. It is not, I want to repeat that. Success is not about hustle, right? You are not going to hustle and grind your way to the top in any sort of, amazing way. The more that you are aligned, which is what Stephenie is talking about, is the fast track, if you will, to success. And it starts with that clarity. That's what we talk about the profitology process. It starts with getting clear. And I think there's a lot of people out there bastardizing the whole purpose work.
Absolutely. And, something I talk a lot about, because it's what pisses me off in our industry, is that if all of my work is process oriented, even my programs, even on the design business side, it's process oriented, because I'm not doing you any good if I'm not leading you through a process to get clear on who you are and what you want and what's right and wrong for you. Yes. And that's what a lot of the experts are doing, right? It's like, this is the way to do it. And it's like, if they're not taking you and your unique business or your unique situation in life into account, they're not really helping you, and there's no way they can be right.
Bingo.
And so a big part of my work has always been teaching, building in that intuitive piece and making it a process. So all I'm doing is holding a container for you to do the work that you need to do to get clear in a way that allows you to take actions that are aligned for you. And you're right that a lot of, coaching is this booming industry, and it's not to say that there aren't a lot of good coaches out there. But too many people, like you said, think that they read a book or they went to a coach training, and now they can go out and be a hugely successful coach. But if you're not doing process-oriented work and you don't know how to teach your clients how to trust themselves and get clear for themselves, then you're doing a huge disservice. And a lot of times it's really damaging.
I've made very bold statements, and I'm going to say it. I'll say it in business particularly. Unqualified business coaches are totally destroying entrepreneurship. Yeah. They are harming people. I cannot tell you how many businesses they've come to me, and they're on the verge of bankruptcy. They've been led down the wrong path. They don't know what end is up. They're just following someone's blueprint. And I don't blame them, because that's what the expert that's put themselves in a position of power and authority has taught them to do.
Yeah.
But their business is so fucked up by the time it gets to me, and I'm like, who told you this? I'm like, now wait a minute. I want you, I'll help them. Does this even make sense to you that you would go from here to here? And they're like, no. And I'm like, exactly. And so I agree with you that there's so much about that getting, and I think when you're clear, like you're talking about in what you teach, when you are clear, it gives you more ammunition to be able to make those discerning decisions about, is this right for me?
Yes, absolutely.
Or is this person, do they know what they're talking about?
Right. That's a big one. And something I want to add to that, I can think about with the whole topic we're talking about being shaped. your business and your work will be shaped. There's a natural unfolding process to uncovering what your body of work is, to getting to the point where I'm at or Kelly is at. Like it's a process and a journey. And I've seen a lot of, I can think of one coach who took one of my programs, launched her business, and then it didn't hit the success she wanted or thought she would have in like 4 months or 5 months or something. So she decided instead to take what she had learned and start coaching other entrepreneurs, which is like, if you haven't built a successful business, should you really be coaching other people on how to do that? No. But also, what do you think is going to happen in 4 months? Like, sometimes people get lucky, they're in the right place at the right time, but that's really rare. A lot of people look at my business and they say, wow, you have all this content and you're so clear and you're so successful. And it's like, I have been an entrepreneur for well over a decade, and I've had this business for almost a decade. And if you look at the timeline, I didn't start with this. Right. I wouldn't have even been able to tell you that this is what I wanted. Like, I had to go through, do the work, mess up, learn, work with different people, go through my own life changes. Like, my body of work had to be shaped by life and living and doing just as much as I did.
The other thing that on this topic, I've noticed this a lot lately because I've been putting people through, I've got a program called 30-Day Profit Transformation. It's kind of like a kickoff, but it's really about getting clear. It's really about it's really about kind of uncovering what it is that you really want and what's holding you, like all of the obstacles that are holding you back, and then helping you identify what the profit accelerators are. And what's interesting is that I feel like in this online business world, which, by the way, I actually don't even agree with that term. I mean, I utilize it sometimes, but you guys, seriously, what is an online business? Yeah. Like, I mean, unless you're an e-commerce business, like, what is an online business, right? Coaching is not an online business. It's a business that we use online marketing tools to market, right? Or we might serve people virtually. But anyways, that could be a whole nother show. Anyways, I just don't agree with that term. Anyway, so when people are getting into this work, I just lost my train of thought. When people are getting into this work and they are, what were we just talking about?
Being shaped.
Being shaped, but before that. Well, I mean, right after that. There was a major point I was going to make, and now I can't remember what it was. You just said it drives me crazy when people.
Oh, they've been like 4 months in business.
Yes.
Don't succeed and then start coaching other.
Yes, and then I talked about like the uncovering. Okay, it'll have to come back to me. It was a really good point, but it'll come back. It'll come back. But yeah, but I completely agree with you on that whole subject. It's like you've got to do the work. Like, you don't just show up like this.
It takes time.
It totally. Oh, thank you. That's what it was. Thank you, girlfriend. All right. What I was going to say is part of what I was talking to them about is Grant Cardone wrote a great book called the 10X Principle or something to that effect. I don't know if you've read that or not.
I've heard of it, yeah.
But basically, in this online world, what I was going to say is people are so instant gratification right now.
Yeah.
That and also because of the veils of what it looks like online, right? People only see the highlight reel. I used to be a publicist. You see exactly what people want you to see in 99% of the cases, right? Like it's a lot, not a lot of, they're showing you the highlights. They're shaping the perception of what they want you to see. And the challenge with that is that it really like gives this standard. It's kind of like women measuring their bodies against all the photoshopped versions of what they see online, because that is not the case on the back end. And then people start feeling shame. They also think that you can just fling something online and poof, you're an overnight $1 million online business. That is not the way it works. I've never seen anyone do that like that. I have seen people rapidly accelerate. It is literally like 1 in 100, right? So it's really, you guys cannot measure your business by that.
No, and I think what's also interesting about that whole, like, the way the online world and social media has kind of warped our perspective of each other is that even when we are, bless you, honest, like I talk a lot about the hard things I've been through in my life and how that's affected my work. Like I've talked about the times that I've literally run out of money in the middle of Iowa in the middle of the night, like as part of my healing journey. And it becomes like sound bites. Like I'm trying to tell the truth, not because I'm trying to be vulnerable and authentic for my marketing, but because I want you to know that sometimes it's hard and it sucks and it happens to even the best of us. But people, like, they don't get it because they haven't lived through that, or they're not willing to do the work and to stay at it long enough to experience those moments to know that, like, wow, that stuff is really hard. And
or they don't have a mentor that's being honest because they're trying to hold themselves up on a pedestal. Like I am brutally transparent with my clients. Like they know what's going, they know it's like, I've just been through a major life transition. They know. Right. And they're watching me move through it. Right. They're watching me move through it in real time.
Yeah. And we need more of that. Like when I've done podcasts and when I'm going to launch another one soon called Tales from the Journey, it's like, I don't want you on my show if you're not willing to be honest with me about the times that you were crying in the shower because you couldn't figure out how to make your business work. Like people need to know that that's part of the process to becoming and staying successful. It doesn't always look that way. It's not like, oh, it's this big, horrible, scary thing. But it's like, that's the reality of it. Is sometimes it really sucks and it's really hard.
And things take time. Like you said, they take time. Like you're not going to throw, like it's interesting. And I that's why I brought up the 30-day profit transformation, because I have them submit to me their simple marketing plan to get their profit transformation. And it's very interesting to me because as much as I am someone who is like, I want you to work smart, it is not about working hard. It's about being strategic. As much as that is a core piece of my message, it is also not about, like, you are going to put in effort. Like your business is not something that just builds itself magically. Like the online fairies don't come down and,
while
you're sleeping and like just drop money in your account. Like, I don't know who started that bullshit story, but it is not true. And so it's interesting to me because they're like, well, I want $1 million business. And so this week I'm going to talk to 3 people. I'm like, okay, so hold on. So there is a massive disconnect between that. And this is what this is what Grant Cardone talks about in the 10X book is you guys have to actually start thinking 10X bigger than what you want. So if you truly want $1 million business, you need to plan for a $10 million business. And what level of investment, expenditure, and are you going to be making to create that $10 million business?
And who do you need to be? Like, how do you need to show up and how do you carry yourself through the world?
Totally. Like you can't be like, oh, I'm just going to try to listen to free podcasts and build a $10 million business. Like it's not realistic. Yeah. So there needs to be some shoring up in between that. When people make it easy or effortless, it's more often because they're aligned and they have practice and they have been doing it for a while.
Yes. And what's so great about programs like yours is that if you don't have that clarity piece, you're not going to make any progress. You just can't. And it's okay if you say when you start, this is what I want, and it evolves and changes as you go. That's normal. That's natural. It's part of the process.
Yeah.
But you're never going to start if you don't even have a sense of which direction you want to move and what's the right way to move in order to do that. You won't.
I totally agree. Where can they, when people are ready to shape their purpose and get real specific about it, which by the way, I think you guys all should do. I mean, here's the thing, you can build a business without learning your purpose, but it's not going to be fulfilling.
No.
It's not going to be fulfilling, and you're going to be, again, falls into the working harder category because you're going to have to work harder to work against who you naturally are. So yeah. Stephenie, where can they find out about you?
Yeah, you can find out about me and all my different brands at stepheniezamora.com. I spell my name special, Stepheniezamora. And there's a fun little quiz there that will just kind of help you pinpoint where you are on your journey and where you're trying to go and what resources would be best for you.
I love it. I love it. You guys, if you have enjoyed this interview with Miss Stephenie and you would like more of this, I would really like to invite you to join the Profit-preneur Circle. It is my free Facebook group on Facebook. obviously, since it's a Facebook group. And in that Facebook group, we do a weekly training called Training Thursday. It's absolutely free to you. We cover all sorts of topics in relation to positioning yourself, branding yourself, and growth strategies to accelerate your profit, as well as we mastermind in there. We share resources, and every 4 to 6 weeks we do an intensive. And so we've got a Marketing to Millionaires intensive coming up on September 11th that we just did one, and people absolutely went bananas for it. So it is absolutely free to you. If you'd like to do that, please come and join us in the Profit-preneur Circle. Make sure you answer all 3 questions, because this is a group for committed entrepreneurs. So if you're a looky-loo, if you're a tire kicker, if you are someone who's dabbling in business, this is not the group for you. If you are someone who's going to come and be like, yes, but I'm not giving you my information, this is not the group for you. Like we are giving full out. We're taking your information so that we can communicate with you. We'd love to see you there. Stephenie, thank you so much for joining us today. And
thank you for having me.
You're very welcome. We will see you next time on the Profit-preneur Show.